Tom Reed stared at the burning city through his cracked apartment window. The orange glow of flames lit up the night sky, turning darkness into an endless sunset. He wasn't surprised, the aliens had been bombing Earth's major cities for the past week. What surprised him was how calm he felt watching it all burn. Maybe it was because he had lost everything already. His job at the fire department, his family, his hope. The aliens, they called themselves the Bright Ones, had taken it all. They came 3 months ago with their massive ships that looked like floating crystal mountains. At first, they said they wanted peace. They offered to share their technology, to help humanity reach the stars. It was all a lie. The Bright Ones feared fire. Their whole society was built around controlling and eliminating it. When they found Earth, with its oxygen-rich atmosphere and humans' mastery over flame, they saw a threat that needed to be destroyed. They didn't understand that fire was humanity's oldest friend, the tool that helped humans climb from caves to skyscrapers. Tom knew fire better than most. 20 years as a firefighter had taught him its patterns, its hunger, its power. He had seen it destroy, yes, but he had also seen it give life, warming homes, cooking food, bringing families together. The Bright Ones couldn't understand that balance. An explosion rocked the building, and Tom grabbed his old firefighting gear from the closet. He might have lost his official job, but he hadn't lost his calling. As he pulled on the heavy jacket and boots, he remembered his chief's last words before the aliens took over the fire station: sometimes the best way to fight fire isn't to put it out, but to control it. Guide it. Use it. Tom checked his equipment one last time: oxygen tank, mask, axe, and something new, a makeshift flamethrower he had built from old fire station equipment. The aliens thought they could break humanity by taking away fire. They didn't realize they were just teaching humans new ways to use it. Walking down the empty streets, Tom saw other survivors hiding in buildings. They watched him with tired eyes, wondering what one man in firefighting gear could do against alien ships. They didn't know what he had discovered, that the Bright Ones' ships, for all their advanced technology, had one major weakness. Their crystal-like hulls were extremely sensitive to sudden temperature changes. Tom wasn't going to try to put out the fires anymore. Instead, he was going to start some very specific ones. The kind that would make those crystal ships crack and shatter. He had tested his theory on a smaller alien vehicle last week. The results had been promising. As he walked toward the alien landing zone, Tom smiled behind his mask. The Bright Ones thought they were so advanced, so superior with their fear of fire. They didn't understand that humans had spent thousands of years learning to live with flame. Learning its secrets, making it their tool rather than their enemy. They had started this fire, thinking it would destroy Earth. But Tom and others like him would end it, not by putting it out, but by making it burn exactly where it needed to burn. Because that's what humans did best, they took their challenges and turned them into advantages. The night was young, and Tom had work to do. Behind him, the city burned, but ahead of him stood the alien ships, their crystal surfaces reflecting the flames like mirrors. Soon, they would learn why humans had kept fire as a friend all these years. Sometimes the most dangerous thing wasn't the fire itself, it was the people who knew how to use it. Tom wasn't alone in the burning city. As he moved through the smoky streets, he spotted other figures in the shadows, people who hadn't given up. Some wore makeshift protective gear like his. Others carried strange devices built from broken alien tech. All of them had the same look in their eyes: determination. He found the first group in an old garage. They called themselves the Ember Squad, former firefighters, engineers, and scientists who had figured out the same thing Tom had about the aliens' weakness. Their leader was Mike, a retired metals worker who had spent 40 years working with high-temperature furnaces. The Bright Ones made a big mistake, Mike told Tom as they gathered around a makeshift map. They thought taking over our fire stations would stop us from fighting back. Instead, they just gave every firefighter in the city a reason to turn their skills against them. The map showed the locations of alien crystal ships across the city. Red marks indicated where resistance groups had already succeeded in destroying smaller vessels. But their main target was different, the command ship that hovered above the city center, directing all the others. Temperature shock is the key, explained Lisa, an engineer who used to design industrial cooling systems. Their ships can handle steady heat or steady cold. But hit them with both quickly enough. She smiled and snapped her fingers. The plan was simple but dangerous. While some teams would create controlled fires around the smaller ships to keep the aliens busy, Tom and a small group would slip into the old subway tunnels. They had discovered that one tunnel ran directly under where the command ship usually hovered. "We've been stockpiling liquid nitrogen from abandoned labs," Mike said, pointing to large tanks in the corner. "Combined with your flamethrower design, we can create the perfect temperature shock. But timing will be everything." As they prepared for the mission, Tom learned more about how the resistance had grown. The Bright Ones had underestimated human creativity. When they banned fire, people started finding new ways to make heat. When they tried to control technology, humans went back to basic tools. Every restriction just taught humans to be more resourceful. The team moved through the tunnels like shadows, pushing carts of equipment. Above them, they could hear the low hum of the command ship. The aliens never bothered to check the underground, another mistake born from their arrogance. They thought humans would only fight with advanced weapons, not simple physics. "Remember," Lisa whispered as they reached their position, "we'll only have one shot at this. Once they realize what we're doing, they'll move the ship. The temperature difference needs to be at least 200 degrees Celsius to crack their hull." Tom checked his modified flamethrower one last time. They had improved his original design, adding pressure regulators and a better fuel mix. Next to him, other team members prepared the liquid nitrogen launchers, fire extinguishers rebuilt to spray the super-cold liquid high into the air. A radio crackled. "Topside teams in position," Mike's voice reported. "Starting the distractions now." Through gaps in the tunnel ceiling, they could see flashes of light as fires started across the city. The command ship's engines changed pitch as it responded to the threats. Perfect, it was moving right into position above them. "Now!" Lisa shouted. Tom fired his flamethrower up through the tunnel's ventilation shafts, creating a column of intense heat. At the same time, others activated their nitrogen launchers. The two extremes met at the ship's hull with a sound like thunder. For a moment, nothing happened. Then they heard it, a high-pitched crack that grew louder and louder. Through the gaps, they saw the first fracture appear in the crystal hull, spreading like spider webs across the surface. The ship tried to move, but it was too late. The damage spread too quickly. Pieces of crystal began falling from the sky as the ship's systems failed. The Bright Ones had never imagined that their greatest defeat would come not from advanced weapons, but from simple hot and cold. As the command ship crashed, its control over the smaller vessels failed. All across the city, other resistance teams were using the same tactics. The night sky filled with the sound of breaking crystal and failing alien engines. Tom watched through the tunnel gaps as their plan worked better than they'd hoped. The Bright Ones had tried to take fire away from humanity. Instead, they had just reminded humans why they had mastered it in the first place. Fire wasn't just a tool, it was a symbol of human resilience, of their ability to take the most dangerous forces and turn them into sources of progress. The battle wasn't over, there would be more ships, more fights. But now they knew how to win. As Tom and his team emerged from the tunnels to see their victory, he realized something: the aliens had been right to fear fire after all. Not because of what it could destroy, but because of how humans had learned to use it. Sometimes the most powerful weapon wasn't the flame itself, but the knowledge of how to control it. News of the command ship's destruction spread faster than fire itself. Within days, resistance groups worldwide were using the same tactics. The Bright One's greatest strength, their crystalline technology, had become their biggest weakness. Tom and the Ember Squad found themselves teaching other groups how to make the temperature shock weapons. They set up a base in the old fire station, turning it into both a shelter and a workshop. The irony wasn't lost on them, the very building the aliens had shut down was now being used to fight back. But the Bright Ones weren't done. Their response came 3 weeks after the command ship fell. New ships arrived, these ones covered in a dark, scale-like armor instead of crystal. They brought with them a new weapon, atmospheric coolers that could freeze entire city blocks. They're trying to change Earth's climate, Lisa explained, showing Tom the data on a salvaged computer. If they can lower the temperature enough, they can make it impossible for us to create the fires we need. The first frost came in summer. People watched in horror as leaves froze and cracked in the middle of August. The Resistance's fire-based weapons became harder to use as the temperature dropped. Some began to lose hope. But Tom remembered something from his firefighting days. Fire doesn't just need heat, he told the group during an emergency meeting. It needs fuel and oxygen. The Bright Ones are so focused on temperature, they forgot about the other elements. Working with Lisa and other engineers, Tom developed a new plan. They couldn't fight the cold directly, but they could use it. The extreme temperature differences between the heated resistance bases and the frozen outside air created powerful air currents. These currents could be harnessed. "We're going to build a heat engine," Lisa announced. "But instead of using it for power, we'll use it to concentrate oxygen. The more oxygen we have, the less heat we need to make effective weapons." The next month was a race against the dropping temperatures. While some teams worked on the oxygen concentrators, others raided abandoned chemical plants for materials. They found ways to make their own fuel that would burn even in the cold. The Bright Ones noticed the Resistance's activities but misunderstood them. They thought humans were just trying to stay warm. They didn't realize they were actually building something much more dangerous. Tom led missions to set up oxygen collection points across the city. Each one looked like a simple heating station for survivors, but secretly fed pure oxygen to underground storage tanks. The aliens' own cooling technology helped create the temperature differences they needed. One night, as Tom helped install another collector, he found a group of kids watching him work. They were bundled up against the artificial winter, but their eyes were bright with interest. "Are you really going to make it warm again?" one asked. "Better," Tom replied. "We're going to show them why humans never feared the cold or the dark. Because we've always known how to make our own heat and light." The plan came together faster than anyone expected. The oxygen collectors worked better in the extreme cold, giving them more resources than they'd hoped for. Teams began modifying their weapons to use the concentrated oxygen, making them effective even in freezing temperatures. The Bright Ones realized something was wrong when their patrols started disappearing. The new weapons didn't just crack their ships, they melted straight through the armor. The concentrated oxygen made the flames burn so hot that even their cold-adapted technology couldn't survive. But the Resistance's greatest victory came from an unexpected source. The aliens' atmospheric cooling had changed Earth's weather patterns, creating massive storms. These storms carried the concentrated oxygen high into the atmosphere, spreading it around the globe. Other resistance groups found their weapons becoming more effective without knowing why. Tom stood with Lisa and Mike on the fire station roof, watching another alien ship fall to the superheated flames. The city was still frozen, but now that cold helped them more than it hurt. Every temperature drop just made their oxygen collectors work better. "They still don't understand, do they?" Lisa said, checking the oxygen readings on her meter. "They think mastering fire is just about controlling heat. They never learned it's about understanding how everything works together: heat, fuel, and oxygen. That's always been humanity's real strength," Tom replied, watching resistance signals flash across the dark sky. Not just using tools, but understanding them. Not just fighting the elements, but making them work for us. The frozen city glittered below them, but now its ice reflected the light of victory fires. The bright ones had tried to use winter as a weapon. Instead, they had just taught humanity a new way to fight back. Spring would come again, and when it did, the aliens would learn that humans could master any season, any element, any challenge. The Resistance captured their first live bright one during a raid on a cooling station. The alien looked almost human, except for its pale, nearly transparent skin that seemed to shimmer like ice. Tom was there when they brought it to the fire station basement. The creature spoke perfect English, but its voice sounded like crackling frost. "You don't understand what you're fighting against," it said. "We're trying to save your species." Tom sat across from the alien, keeping his distance as Lisa monitored its vital signs. "Save us from what?" he asked. "From the Fire Lords," the Bright One replied. "The ones who seeded your world with the gift of fire. They're coming back, and when they do, they'll burn everything." The story came out slowly. The Bright Ones were refugees, running from ancient enemies who had mastered fire on a cosmic scale. These Fire Lords had destroyed countless worlds, turning them into burning wastelands. Earth was next on their list. "We found signs of their influence in your history," the alien continued. "The myths of fire gods, the spread of fire use among early humans. They were preparing your species to serve them." Mike wanted to dismiss it as lies, but Tom saw truth in the alien's fear. "Why not just tell us this from the start?" he asked. "Would you have believed us? Your species loves fire too much. You've built your entire civilization around it. We thought the only way to save you was to force you to abandon it." Lisa's instruments showed the alien was telling the truth, or at least believed it was. The revelation sparked fierce debate among the resistance leaders. Some wanted to continue fighting the Bright Ones, while others thought they should listen. But Tom had another idea. "If these Fire Lords are really coming," he said, "then we need both our knowledge of fire and your technology to fight them." The alien stared at him. "Impossible. Fire can't be trusted. It can only destroy." "That's where you're wrong," Tom replied. "Humans have spent thousands of years learning to use fire for creation, not just destruction. We don't just control it, we understand it." He showed the alien their workshops, where they combined heat and cold to forge new materials. He explained how they used fire to shape metal, to make medicines, to power engines. The Bright One watched with growing amazement. "Your people fear fire because you never learned to work with it," Lisa explained. "You built your civilization around avoiding it. We built ours around mastering it." More Bright Ones began defecting as the truth spread. They brought knowledge of their cooling technology, which the Resistance combined with their fire mastery. Together, they developed new weapons and tools that used both extreme heat and cold. The breakthrough came when they found a way to use the Bright One's atmospheric coolers to create controlled fusion reactions. The very machines meant to freeze Earth became power sources for defending it. Tom spent long hours working with the aliens, teaching them basic fire safety while learning about their advanced science. "The Fire Lords think they can use fire to control us," he told them. "But fire isn't just a weapon. It's a tool, a teacher, and sometimes, a bridge between different peoples." The former enemies worked to prepare Earth's defenses. The Bright One sensors detected the Fire Lords' approach, massive ships that burned like suns, heading toward Earth. But now, instead of trying to freeze the planet, they helped build heat shields and energy weapons that could fight fire with fire. "We were wrong about your species," the first captured Bright One told Tom as they watched humans and aliens working together. "We thought your mastery of fire made you dangerous. Now we understand it makes you essential." Tom nodded, remembering all the lessons fire had taught humanity over the centuries. Sometimes the best way to overcome fear is to face it and learn from it. Your people feared fire because you didn't understand it. Now you're learning what we've known all along: fire is neither good nor evil. It's a force that can create or destroy, depending on how you use it. As they prepared for the coming battle, Tom realized that the Bright One's invasion, though terrible, had forced both species to evolve. Humans had learned to combine fire with new technologies, while the aliens had begun to overcome their ancient fears. The Fire Lords were coming, but they would find Earth defended by a unique alliance, one that understood both the power of fire and the importance of controlling it. The real war was about to begin, and this time, all of Earth's children, both human and alien, would stand together against those who would burn everything. The first Fire Lord ship appeared like a second sun in the sky. Its hull glowed white-hot, turning clouds to steam as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. Tom watched from the reinforced observation deck of the combined Human Bright One Defense Center, his hand tightening on the railing. "Their heat signature is beyond our initial estimates," said Ray, the Bright One who had first warned them. His transparent skin reflected the approaching light. The outer layer of their ship maintains a temperature of nearly 10,000 degrees. The defense systems they had built together were already activating. Massive heat sinks, built using Bright One technology, pulled thermal energy from the air. Concentrated oxygen tanks fed the new plasma weapons. But would it be enough? The Fire Lord's message came on all frequencies, in a voice that seemed to burn: "Children of Earth, we have returned for what is ours. Your mastery of fire marks you as our chosen servants. Submit, and you may join us among the stars." Tom looked at the Human and Bright One operators working side by side. 6 months ago, they had been enemies. Now they were Earth's last defense against an enemy that made their previous conflicts seem tiny. "They're powering up their main weapon," Lisa reported from her station. The screens showed energy readings climbing off the charts. "It looks like they're going to try to ignite the atmosphere." But Earth was ready. As the Fire Lord's weapon charged, the combined defense network activated. Thousands of heat sinks across the planet pulled thermal energy from the air, while modified atmospheric coolers created a protective layer of super-chilled air in the upper atmosphere. The Fire Lords fired their weapon, a beam of pure plasma that should have turned Earth's air into fire. Instead, it hit the layered defenses of hot and cold, creating a spectacular aurora of conflicting energies. "Impossible!" The Fire Lord's voice boomed. "You dare use our gift against us?" Tom grabbed the communication system. "Fire wasn't your gift," he responded. "You may have given it to us, but we learned to master it ourselves. We made it our own." The battle began in earnest. More Fire Lord ships appeared, but Earth's defenders had prepared well. The combined technologies created weapons that even these masters of fire hadn't imagined: beams that used rapid temperature changes to tear ships apart, shields that turned enemy fire back on itself. But the Fire Lords were powerful. Their ships started targeting the defense networks, trying to destroy the delicate balance of hot and cold that protected Earth. They had thousands of years of experience destroying worlds. What they didn't expect was humanity's creativity. As their ships destroyed the main defenses, smaller resistance groups used guerrilla tactics. Teams led by former firefighters used their knowledge of fire behavior to predict and counter the aliens' attacks. The Bright Ones' understanding of cold helped create unexpected weapons. Tom coordinated it all from the defense center, using skills learned from years of managing fire crews. "Fire needs 3 things," he reminded his teams: heat, fuel, and oxygen. Take away any one, and even the Fire Lords can't keep burning. The battle raged for hours. The Fire Lords, used to quick victories, found themselves frustrated by Earth's resilience. Every time they adapted their attacks, the defenders found new ways to counter them. "You're nothing but primitives," the Fire Lords raged as another of their ships fell. Fire is power. Power demands respect. No, Tom replied through the comm system. Fire is life. Life demands understanding. The tide turned when they discovered the Fire Lord's critical weakness. Their ships relied on constant burning to maintain their power. They had never imagined someone could use that against them. By carefully manipulating the atmosphere around their ships, the defenders could control their flames. Lisa's voice came over the comm. The oxygen concentrators are in position. Ready on your mark, Tom. Tom looked at Ray, who nodded. Human and Bright One technology, working together one last time. Do it, he ordered. Around each Fire Lord ship, the air suddenly became superoxygenated while heat sinks pulled away thermal energy. The ship's flames, instead of dying, burned too hot, too fast. They couldn't control their own power. What have you done? The Fire Lord's voice held fear for the first time. Their ships were beginning to tear themselves apart, their own flames turning against them. We learned from both sides, Tom answered. The power of fire and the wisdom to control it. You thought you could use fire to enslave us. Instead, you taught us to perfect it. The Fire Lord's fleet began to fall, their mighty ships destroyed by their own power. As they retreated, their final message showed they still didn't understand. You've corrupted our gift. No, Tom said quietly, watching them flee. We finally understood it. The Fire Lords retreated, but they left Earth changed forever. The atmosphere still shimmered with leftover energy from the battle, creating strange lights in the sky. Cities bore scars of both frost and flame, but among the ruins, something new was growing. Tom walked through the streets of what had been the defense center, now helping with rebuilding efforts. Humans and Bright Ones worked together, using their combined knowledge to create buildings that could withstand both heat and cold. The old fire station had become a teaching center, where both species learned from each other. We've detected something interesting, Lisa told him one morning, showing readings from their atmospheric sensors. The battle had changed Earth's climate in unexpected ways. Areas that were once too cold for life now supported new forms of plants that thrived in the mix of heat and frost. The Bright Ones brought news from their own worlds too. The Fire Lord's defeat had sparked rebellions across their empire. Other species that had lived in fear were learning to master fire themselves, inspired by Earth's example. Your people have changed how we see everything, Ray said as he helped Tom install a new type of heating system that used both fire and ice. We thought we had to choose between heat and cold. You showed us how to use both. But victory had come at a cost. Many cities were still rebuilding, and the strange new weather patterns caused problems no one had seen before. Some areas experienced rain that froze and boiled at the same time, creating storms of steam and ice. Tom led teams to handle these new challenges, using everything they'd learned. Fire departments evolved, becoming centers for controlling both temperature extremes. The old ways of fighting fires weren't enough anymore, now they had to understand the complex dance between heat and cold. Look at this, Lisa said one day, showing him a sample under a microscope. The mixture of alien technology and Earth's atmosphere had created new materials, crystals that could absorb heat and release it slowly, metals that grew stronger when frozen. The Bright Ones helped study these changes, their fear of fire replaced by scientific curiosity. They discovered that their own bodies were adapting, becoming less sensitive to heat while keeping their resistance to cold. Humans too were changing, developing better tolerance for temperature extremes. We thought we were saving Earth from fire, Ray admitted as they watched a sunset turn spectacular by the altered atmosphere. Instead, Earth showed us how to save ourselves from fear. News came from space, the Fire Lord's empire was collapsing. Without fear to hold it together, their power crumbled. Some of their former subjects began reaching out to Earth, seeking to learn the same balance that had defeated their old masters. Tom found himself teaching more than fighting now. Groups came from across Earth and space to learn about controlling fire and ice together. The old fire station became the first of many training centers, where different species shared their knowledge. The Fire Lords thought mastery meant control through force, he told his students, both human and alien. But real mastery comes from understanding. Fire isn't just destruction, it's transformation. And transformation is what all life needs to grow. The Bright Ones began establishing permanent settlements on Earth, bringing their technology to help protect against the new weather patterns. In return, humans helped them build their first controlled fire pits, small steps toward overcoming centuries of fear. Lisa's research team made another discovery: the combined use of heat and cold was creating new forms of energy, cleaner and more powerful than anything either species had used before. Earth's wounds were healing, transformed into something stronger. "We're not who we were before the Fire Lords came," Tom said during a council meeting of human and Bright One leaders. "But maybe that's not a bad thing. We've learned that strength doesn't come from mastering one element, but from understanding how they all work together." The night sky still shimmered with aurora-like lights, a reminder of the great battle. But now those lights represented hope instead of fear. Earth had become a beacon in space, proving that even the oldest enemies could learn to work together, that the most destructive forces could be turned to creation. As Tom watched a new group of students, human children playing with young Bright Ones, neither afraid of heat or cold, he understood the true victory. The Fire Lords had wanted to control fire, the Bright Ones had wanted to eliminate it, but Earth had found a third way, learning to live in balance with all of nature's forces. The future would bring new challenges, but they would face them together, with wisdom born from both fire and ice. The Fire Lords hadn't just started a war, they had accidentally sparked an evolution, one that would spread across the galaxy, changing everything it touched. 10 years after the Great Battle, Tom stood atop the new Global Fire Control Center, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. They came seeking what Earth alone could teach: the perfect balance between fire and ice, heat and cold, destruction and creation. The Fire Lords had returned one last time, not with weapons but with a request. Their empire had fallen, their power broken, and now they sought understanding. Tom had been chosen to meet them. The Fire Lord ambassador landed in a ship that glowed only faintly, so different from their original burning vessels. They looked almost human, except for their skin that seemed to contain moving flames. "We've watched what you built here," the ambassador said, their voice still carrying echoes of fire but quieter now. "Our entire civilization was based on the power of fire. Yours is based on understanding it. We want to learn." Tom led them through Earth's transformed cities. Buildings now used both heat and cold in perfect harmony, creating comfortable spaces that needed almost no energy. The strange weather patterns had been tamed, turned into sources of power through combined human and Bright One technology. "Your greatest achievement wasn't defeating us," the ambassador observed, watching children play in a park where frozen fountains created rainbows in eternal flame. "It was showing the galaxy a new way to live." The training center, once Tom's old fire station, had become the heart of a worldwide network. Fire departments now handled the full spectrum of temperature control, their techniques spreading to other worlds. The Bright Ones had become Earth's closest allies, their fear of fire transformed into deep respect for the balance humans had achieved. Lisa's research had blossomed into new fields of science. The interaction between heat and cold had revealed secrets about energy and matter that neither humans nor aliens had imagined. "Every force has its opposite," she explained to visiting scientists. "True power comes from understanding both sides." The Fire Lords' last strongholds had become learning centers, teaching the same lessons they had once fought against. Their ancient knowledge, combined with Earth's practical experience and the Bright One's technology, was solving problems across the galaxy. "We thought fire was meant to consume," the ambassador admitted as they watched a demonstration of the latest temperature control systems. "You showed us it was meant to transform." The changes weren't limited to technology. Earth's transformed atmosphere had stabilized into something new, an environment where all species could thrive. The aurora-like lights had become permanent, a reminder of how conflict had led to beauty. Tom's role had changed too. From firefighter to resistance leader to teacher, he now served as a bridge between species. His understanding of fire's true nature helped others find their own balance. The ancient war between fire and ice is over, he told a gathering of representatives from across the galaxy. Not because one side won, but because we learned they were never meant to fight. Like all natural forces, they work best in harmony. The Fire Lords officially surrendered their remaining weapons, converting their war fleets into exploration vessels. The Bright Ones established colonies on worlds they once feared, using their mastery of cold to make hostile environments habitable. Earth had become more than just a planet, it was a symbol of transformation. The place where fire and ice learned to dance together, where ancient enemies became teachers, where destruction gave birth to creation. As Tom watched the sun set through the shimmering air, casting colors no human had seen before the war, he remembered the long journey. From the first attacks, through the resistance, to the final victory and beyond. The Fire Lords had tried to end Earth's story, but instead, they had helped write its greatest chapter. "You didn't start the fire," Ray said, joining him at the viewport with a group of students, human, Bright One, and even young Fire Lords, all learning together. "But you showed us all how to guide it." Tom smiled, watching the next generation take up the task of maintaining the balance. The fire that had threatened to destroy everything now helped create something greater than anyone had imagined. It hadn't been about fighting fire with fire, or even about putting the fire out. It had been about understanding fire's true purpose, not to destroy, but to transform. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The age of fire and ice had ended, and the age of harmony had begun. And it all started because humans had never forgotten their oldest friend, the flame that lived in every hearth, in every heart, waiting not to destroy, but to light the way forward.